Uzi was the same way, where when they come out and they pop out, you're not hearing nothing else like this in the top of the charts until they come back.
Yeah.
And I think those days are gone, and we're kind of seeing it firsthand. So numbers wise, of course, we see, literally that hurts. But I do think perception wise, I've heard a lot of Lil Uzi fans say that this is the follow off. Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to us, and leave us a comment. Let us know how wrong we always are. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather, and we're here with His Royal Highness, aka No Longer Munchin' King Grant.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Album Mode. This time we're here with Lil Uzi Vert, Eternal Atake 2. One of the albums that I'm going to be honest with you, I was not really looking forward to. I think I am one of the people that has been down on Lil Uzi, late Lil Uzi Vert work. And when you see a 2 coming next to an album, it's already giving wash vibes. It's already giving wash, you know what I mean? Unless the first one was super good, super critically acclaimed or something like that, or we're talking about like a trilogy on purpose. I'm like, okay, we can do a number 2. But we're getting a number 2 randomly, surprise drop. Eternal Atake number 2. That was my best selling project. Let me just throw a 2 on there. I was scared. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was pretty scared.
I think one place I want to start, because I don't even know the answer to this question myself. I feel like there's like maybe a basic answer to this question, and of course in the comments, let us know what the actual answer is. But what do you think Lil Uzi's best album is?
I think that is Love is Rage 2, I think.
The one that had All My Friends Are Dead?
No, the mixtape. The mixtape. Hold on.
Also, we're counting the mixtape.
I count the mixtapes.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because I think if you're going back to the mixtape, that's part of what we're dealing with here. Is he is maybe more from that generation of the artists like J. Cole, Kendrick, and Drake, where people sometimes say their best project is their mixtape. And I think we don't think of Lil Uzi like that. And that's why I'm asking, like, what is actually the best album? Because when I think of the best of Lil Uzi, I also think of the mixtape days. So
right.
Are we fair in saying, maybe his best times are past him? Because you're not the first person, but I asked some Lil Uzi fans in my life what their favorite songs were. People told me they don't even have a favorite song. They are saying he's maybe past his prime. He's washed. So I want to know, is that what you were thinking coming into this project? Is that where your head was at?
Yeah, as soon as they decided to say, as soon as I see the 2, I got worried. I think it was Lil Uzi Vert versus The World, where it's like Canadian Goose, High Roller, Money Longer, P's and Q's, Team Rocket, Scott and Ramona. That is for me, Lil Uzi Vert, peak. That's the pinnacle. When it comes to just like it all in a grouping, I think that there's been, one-offs, EXO Tour Life. There's obviously been, what's the name of that one that came out in like 2019? That track that came out in 2019, something Shuffle, that was really good too.
Yep.
So there's a bunch of
Just Wanna Rock.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? There's the singles. There's singles. I mean, Lil Uzi Vert is got great singles, but when it came to this, there wasn't really a single that came out leading up to this. So I'm like, they might be washed, bro. They might be washed. I'm thinking that.
It seems like they might be. And one of my OGs told me, when you ask someone a straightforward question and they start explaining themselves, something has gone wrong. And we had a moment like that, because I asked you, is there any reason to review this project other than the fact that Lil Uzi is very powerful or very popular? And you went into this long explanation about, well, Drake is very popular too when we review Drake, and everyone's asking about him. And I said, so your answer is no. The popularity is the reason why we're doing this. And why I brought this up is because I said all of this to you before listening to one song on this project. I just I had a feeling, I could smell where this was going.
Hmm.
And so it's funny that, you start off by talking about him being washed, or sorry, them being washed,
Hmm.
when I kind of brought that up to you. Not saying that they were washed, just kind of testing the temperature. And it was already time for the big explanation. And usually we don't start with this at the top of the project, but only because of the conversation we had, this is where I'm going to start here. Now, the U.S. album chart preview has been out on the 5th for this past week. Now, Lil Uzi Vert has had some great debuts in the past, but this one is probably the lowest. Okay, debuting at number 3 on the charts with 60K. Number 2, Sabrina Carpenter, 66K. Tyler the Creator at 150K.
Big three.
Obviously, those are two huge. We're gonna move past that. Obviously, those are two huge artists, so that's nothing to sneeze at being third to those two. But why I brought that up is because Tyler, of his big numbers he did this week and last week, 66,000 of those were in vinyl sales. So
Dang.
doing more in vinyls than Uzi is doing in streams, that is something I don't think we ever saw happening, because Uzi has had some great debuts in their day. 247 for Lil Uzi Vert versus the World, 154 for the Pink Tape. So this is a huge drop for them just in terms of first week numbers. And this is before we even talk about the music itself.
Yeah, I think that also indicates there is like a zeitgeist shift that is happening that Lil Uzi Vert is not really a part of. I think that Uzi, this is something that I actually wrote down a lot when it came to my notes for this review, is that I'm sensing somebody that has gotten left behind. That's how I feel. I feel like a person has just stayed themselves. Uzi was an extremely likable figure. People liked Uzi a lot. Very likable, very funny. Very, some people I knew a
Mm-hmm.
couple of like Lil Uzi Vert super fans. So it wasn't
Yep.
that outside the
Yep.
realm to be like Lil Uzi Vert is like top dog, number one, number two, whatever. But over the past, I want to say past couple of years, we've seen just figures emerge out of the ether. Yeat, Tyler the Creator has gained prominence, massive prominence. Um, who else? Who else is really just like even people like
Carti,
Carti,
Brent Faiyaz. Yep.
Brand Fias, right? There's just been more dudes that have erupted, which is fine. Even though Brent Fias doesn't make the same like style of music, I'm just saying like there's more people now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the people that when Uzi came up with your your Migos, 21 Savage to an extent, I would say 21 Savage is having crazy longevity for again how
Mm-hmm.
narrow of a scope he was at the beginning. But the 21 Savage, even your Kodak Black, even though Kodak Black had a feature on Yeats music. But that whole 2016, 2017 double XL freshman cover, those guys they're in the rear view Loki. They exist because we acknowledge them,
Mm-hmm.
but we can say at this point in time their musical peaks are behind them.
You know what? You're kind of foreshadowing something we're going to talk about a little bit later when we get to the section about what this means for their career. I have a question about that for you. You named some of the guys that I'm going to talk about later, so
Mm-hmm.
that's a little foreshadowing for we're going to get into later. And why I brought up a conversation is because I actually brought up Lil Uzi Vert almost 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And so when you had your whole thing that we're talking about of, Angel hates Lil Uzi, I was laughing behind the scenes because, I was actually bringing up Lil Uzi to someone 3 weeks ago about how I miss them and what kind of music they're going to be making.
Mm-hmm.
And the song that did that for me was Venetia, and Venetia came on shuffle, and I said, "Oh my, I kind of miss this. Like, I haven't heard this energy
Mm-hmm.
in a little while." And I asked someone who I know is a little Uzi fan. I said, "When's the last time you listened to Eternal Atake?" And they said, "Actually, earlier this week, I just went back to it, and I kind of want that energy back."
Okay.
And so when this album came about, I was like, okay, something is aligning in the stars for me to randomly bring them up, someone else to say they want to hear some more from them.
Mm-hmm.
So something is going on here. And I think this is kind of the time where we can see, is that shift going to happen? Which way are they going to be in the direction of? Because I think, like you said about, kind of them being passed by, the production is the number one place where that is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Before we even get into that, we got to start off with the amount of songs liked. And again, this is the time for y'all to get in the comments. Okay, let us know how many songs do you have liked of this artist. I'll go first. For me, I have 81 songs liked of Lil Uzi Vert. What about you?
I'm at 90. So I'm 9 up on you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But those
Yeah.
are both high numbers for
I
both of
know.
us.
But Uzi also drops a ton of music. Low-key.
No,
Like
100%.
Eternal Atake 2, then there was,
Pink
Love versus the
Tape.
World, Love versus World 2, Pink Tape. Then there was that weird mixtape that they dropped with
Pluto and Baby.
yeah, the artificial intelligence, the one with the artificial intelligence cover.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there's a lot of music, like a lot, a lot.
Yeah, and why I wanted to start there is because we haven't talked about this review at least, and depending on how this is gonna go, I want people to know we are both fans of the artist. Okay, he, Demar is at 90, I'm at 81. We are not just flippantly talking about Lil Uzi Vert in any way.
Hmm.
We reviewed Baby, Pluto, and Pluto. Do you remember what we gave it? We gave it the exact same score. In the description, you said P.S. Future saved this one. Do you
Yep.
remember the score that we gave it?
It must have been like a four or maybe a five because I was like, Future is amazing and Uzi is trying to sabotage the entire track.
Sabotage is hilarious. We both gave it a five. We both
Okay.
gave it a five.
So yeah, see?
Um, yeah, I think that one's pretty funny. And then we also reviewed the Pink Tape. Um, I like this one. Why are we still doing 20 song albums? Um,
That was like 2 years ago and it's still happening. Why are we still doing that?
still happening. You gave this a fairly higher score than I did. You remember what score you gave it?
I think I gave that a seven. I think.
Yeah, you gave it a 7.5. I
Yeah.
gave it a 6. So Uzi is someone who I think has been, all over the place for both of us when it comes to the scores that they've gotten. The Rush. I think this is the place to start for me. Literally number one in my notes. This
Mhm.
is one of those songs that's easy to ignore. And I think that's saying it lightly. Production wise, this is kind of the bad version of Uzi, and people who say that this is all mumble rap and nonsense. The Rush is a kind of song that comes to their mind. And I want to add this anecdote in there because this really happened. I'm listening to the album, getting ready for the review, and a
Mhm.
friend of mine calls, and I didn't pause the music. I had to answer the phone.
Mhm.
My friend literally said, "What the fuck are you listening to right now?" So this is just one of those songs that it's like you're not showing this to the first person on this project. This is not the first song you're showing them.
Yeah, I think that this song and among a lot of the songs feel like it has like this stunted growth, right? Like there's this entry with the big time rush people who shout out to them for somehow appearing on Lil Uzi Vert's music. Like but it arrives and then I feel like it just never goes anywhere. And I think that's kind of odd for Lil Uzi's music considering how EDM influenced it is. Where there's like drops and stripping out certain instruments, synthesizers, stuff like that. It just kind of is that one cybernetic like sound of woo, woo. That's it. His rapping style is the same, like the same flow all the way through. It just became one of those like it exists, we're existing, it exists. And that's kind of it, you know what I mean? So that's how I felt about that song. But that's like a lot of the songs on the album.
Yeah, I think there's a way that you can try and enjoy these songs
Hmm.
and get hype for it. It does still give the energy of his old music. I'll say
Yeah.
the energy is still there, but I think I was kind of splitting a lot of these songs into good Uzi versus bad Uzi. because Uzi does have a few different sides. There's kind of the R&B singing type of Uzi.
Yep.
There's just really hyper Uzi. There's the more half speed Uzi. There's the 64 bars Uzi that is on here as well. I think Not an Option is the good version of Uzi. I think the best thing production wise on that one is the beat falling out at certain times.
Yeah.
Because the thing about them is they can rap, that's why I compare them to being part of that old era. Is because now if you compare them to their contemporaries who make this kind of music, they're the best rapper out of the group, and it's like at that time, I don't think people were considering Lil Uzi lyrical in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And I think this is probably one of those albums where it's some of the worst lyrical stuff that we've heard from them, but
Hmm.
Not an Option, I think, is the good version of what they can do.
Yeah, I think that and I want to say We Good, which is the first track, I
Mm-hmm.
liked just because the production is just more complex in the sense of like things are stopping, we have 808s at very erratic times, or the beat gets held at the middle, or like Not an Option does like this like dun, 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 with the 808s, right? So there's like a stutter and stuff like that. There's a level of creativity to the production that exists there that I would say we're mentioning the best songs right now. um his issue overall is he is he is in the Lil Uzi sauce production wise, where it's very cybernetic, very it's EDM influence, lots of synths and stuff like that. The genre that he helped create, which is rage music, is light years ahead of whatever Lil Uzi Vert created and is continuously doing right now. People like Yeat, Playboi Carti, even like Akia Baby, or even I'm even trying like Ken Carson, like they've gripped everything. The cyber, like again, it's the same similar production style, the cybernetic, really winding synths and stuff like with the trap drums and stuff like that. They've pulled it so far away, just so far away from what Uzi originated it as. When you're listening to their music right now, it sounds old. Like it really just sounds like you're trapped in 2018, 2016, 2017. It's so bizarre, but I think Lil Uzi, I think he got jumped. Like I think he got jumped like Kid Cudi did.
Oh, it's crazy. That's the person I thought of as well. It's like, and I think in a way, Kid Cudi recovered in a way that I don't know that Uzi will,
Mm-hmm.
because even though I don't love Kid Cudi's new stuff as much as his old stuff, Kid Cudi found a lane in his new stuff that's almost like this is 2020's Kid Cudi, and it's like you can almost put his new music into its own era of this is what 2020's Kid Cudi sounds like, and Lil Uzi just sounds very much like the old Lil Uzi.
It was
Um,
saucy at the time.
at, at,
At the
at
time.
the at the time, and it's like things have progressed since, and they haven't grown with it. And it's
Mhm.
funny because we've been doing this podcast for enough years now, where we've seen that with artists who maybe the first time we review their music, they're at a different place, and then when we review it now, they're at a different place.
Mhm.
And someone I think of is Meg Thee Stallion, who
Right.
she was at the forefront of what women were doing in hip hop. Period. When
Mhm.
we reviewed her first project that she had on the podcast. Now we're talking about all these
Little
women kind of
Millie,
leapfrogging
Glorilla,
her. Lotto, Sexy
Lotto.
Red,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like they're leapfrogging her in a way that it feels like she can't catch up to, and I feel that same way about Uzi. There's one song on here that it really really reminded me of that era, and it's funny because listening to the song I said if this was 2016, 2015, the second this beat came on we would have went crazy,
Hmm.
and it's like we're just not in that time anymore.
Yeah.
And I
Meteor
think
Man.
that Meteor Man's one of those. I was thinking about
Yeah.
Black Hole.
Oh.
um and it's like we're just not in that time anymore.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this was the start of people using the phrase mumble rap. the real divide of old school and new school hip hop, at
Mm-hmm.
least perception wise, was happening at this time. And it's funny to see where things have grown to. I really feel like, them being in their own world helped for a long time
Yeah.
because there were all these songs that only they would make. And that was kind of the part of my original question of, is there something happening other than them being popular? Because there was a time when they were pushing forward this subgenre and at the forefront of it.
Yep.
That time has a
Before,
1,000,000% passed.
yeah, because we talk about rage music now. That's a genre. It has a Wikipedia page. I sent that to you on the weekend.
Mm.
Um, Lil Uzi Vert, when they were making their music, it didn't even have a name yet. Rage
No.
music, yeah, it didn't even have a name, right? So this EDM, electronic infused music, it was just, it was just trap, but it was Uzi, right? But now it's been codified, and we've been able to see people experiment in that space. So when you have a song like Black Hole, where I'm still not sure if he's trying to make an R&B song like a future like R&B song, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Or
yes.
if it's a hip hop song, like that would have been crazy in 2018. Like, yo, he's like the genre bending is so sick, and I'm like, now we're at a point where people have figured out how to navigate that, and it doesn't sound like this. It sounds much more refined than whatever this is now.
Much more refined. And this is my last bit for production because I think the thing that stands out to me from what they did on this record is that the verses when they sing are actually really good. Like the
Mm-hmm.
verses, that flow they do when they sing with the beat, like that part is cold. It's the chorus where it gets more screechy and the vocals aren't as good that you're like, maybe you should have had someone else come and do this. And it's like that kind of delivery of almost sing rapping in the verses,
Mm-hmm.
that is almost standard now. And I
Yeah.
think at that time, that was, renowned for who we thought was so talented. I remember when Jeremiah was doing that, that was seen as, I can't believe this R&B person is floating like this. Now you open TikTok and you go see someone you ain't never heard of mimicking this flow. And
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
think Lil Uzi definitely has fallen behind
Yeah.
in a way that I don't think they're aware of, because one thing I have been noticing in a lot of the press that they're doing is talking about them being sober. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm sober now. And it's funny because, a lot of rage music, and a part of why I think the older generation had a huge problem with it was the going from drug dealing to drug use.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's something that's almost like so commonplace now that we don't mention it as much. But he talks a lot about doing shrooms and smoking weed all over this project. And it's like I can't imagine what he was doing for that to be sober. so,
Yeah.
so it's funny to hear on the production. It's like there is almost kind of a fog in the production that comes from heavy drug use.
Yeah. I would say my last real point about the production is the heaviness of Uzi's music. Again, it used to be crazy. You listen to Money Longer, and even Neon Guts. Well, Neon Guts is more of like an R&B-ish track, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like Safe House, which is really, really early Uzi. That stuff used to hit like a ton of bricks. It used to drop on you, and you were going up, you were doing your EDM dance, right? Whatever your EDM dance was. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that uh a song like, for example, like a song like She Stank, I think when that first came, if that came out, or again in like 2017 or something like that, that would have been hectic. The speed of the synths, that little sound in the background, and then going into that, like, spacey atmospheric vibe. I think that would have been huge back in 2018. But we're at a point now where if you listen to Lifestyle by Yeat, you're if you listen to this album and then Lifestyle by Yeat, you're like, Yeat is making, it's gone to a point now where you're like, Yeat or Ken Carson, they make real rage music. This is like rage music light. Um,
Honestly, yeah.
yeah. So the fact that the music has gotten heavier, heavier, more distorted, more experimental, honestly, when it comes to like if you look like Yeats 2093 or something like that. And I hate to just be comparing him to other artists, but this is kind of like the point though. Like the fact that he has gotten so far behind is weird. I never really thought that that would happen to Lil Uzi Vert. I always thought that they would be in a space where they were always ahead of the curve or at least on curve. And there just seems to be I don't know, they just fell off. This is I actually feel for real they fell off.
Mhm.
This is a fall off for me.
No, this is the fall off album. Like,
Yeah,
who's J. Cole? This is the
this is
fall
the
off.
fall off because there's not even a
Um,
hit song.
no, there's no hit song, and I think the genre bending that made them almost on their own island, where of course Rage is its own subgenre being created before our eyes.
Hmm.
It's a lot more electronic based than what the mainstream was at that time. Because I
Yeah,
remember people were comparing them to Lil Wayne at one point. And then eventually, as their catalog grew, it's like, nah, maybe not,
yeah, not even
maybe
close.
not. Um, but I think that now that we have a better understanding and context for just what rage is and was as a subgenre, what music is as a subgenre, that
Yeah.
idea that they're just so left, okay, they're in the future, we just don't understand. That's
Hmm.
gone. I
Yeah,
think
that's
that
gone.
was kind of the perception and as well the narrative for a long time of they're in the future, they're making music you may not be ready for yet. I think there's nothing on here that kind of makes you think, okay, I just don't understand this. Maybe I'm not the
Yeah.
demographic for this.
Here's the
Yeah, go
best
ahead.
example, perfect example for anybody that is listening to this review. Listen to Mr. Chow by Lil Uzi Vert, and then listen to Orchestrate by Yeat. That's the same song, like the same motif, same idea of a song, and Orchestrate is doing backflips, cartwheels, and 360 windmills over it. It's actually insane. The complexity of the complexity of the production, complexity of the vocal usage is just not as dense when it comes to Uzi's music now. Like that, if you really listen to Rage music, it's dense. Like you have to multiple voices, the ad libs, the different sounds that are coming out of the synths and stuff like that. The trap, the drums aren't even like always the same now. Sometimes people are using echoes in their voice. Like we talked about Future before when it came to Yeet or even like this entire sphere. The toolbox, you have to be able to pull things out of the toolbox, and I feel like Uzi, um, not really like they are a big fan of Chief Keef, which is obvious in the melodies that they use, but they're not like going to the future and Young Thug space where you're trying to just grab parts of yourself and just try to see how far you can stretch them. Just because Lil Uzi Vert, when they were on the scene, it was Lil Uzi Vert. They had their own songs and nobody can even touch them, right? So
Not
there's
anymore.
yeah, not anymore. People have already picked away at Lil Uzi Vert and figured out how to make it a different thing. So that's how I feel about the production, man. It's actually kind of it's a little. I feel a little bit like sad.
I'm more than a little sad. Like
I feel a little sad.
this, because I think the thing is, Lil Uzi is one of those artists that how we're talking about this project, people have felt since the beginning.
Mm,
And there are some no, and there are some like The Rush, I think actually sounds how people think they sound.
hmm.
If that makes any sense. Like someone who's not a Uzi fan, every song Uzi's ever made sounds like The Rush to them.
Right.
Now they finally are matching
Like I
up
told
with
you, I told
that.
you.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it really really sad. You
Hmm.
brought up She Stank. That's one of the songs I have for lyrics. Um, and I think we had a bunch of conversations off mic about lyricism and hip hop and how important it is and what people want. And I think that's always been a part of the conversation with Rage because there hasn't been a real lyricist come from Rage yet. I think Uzi and Carti are probably the two closest.
Shout out
Um,
for you to say Playboi Carti.
no, well, Carti comes from
That's
ASAP Mob. Carti comes from ASAP Mob, so just off the proxy, he
Lil
is the
Uzi Vert,
closest.
Lil
No,
Uzi Vert, Playboi Carti,
no,
lyricists out here barring people up. Playboi Carti and the baby boys out here with Jay-Z, baby. He's out here next to AZ, Jay-Z, Rakim,
no, not nothing like that.
Ice
But
Cube.
they're the closest, and I think I guess the understanding of lyricism in this subgenre is that it is not important. There's not
Yeah.
a goal here of you're gonna get every lyrical dexterity and triple entendre. That's not the point here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the genius of what Lil Uzi was juxtaposition of both of those things, where there's enough there that you can see the talent enough people calling that Lil Wayne,
Mm-hmm.
or Playboi Carti. The talent is enough that he can fit in with ASAP Mob, who are all known as lyricists, and he doesn't stand out as not being a lyricist. And I think this is a project where they almost drank their own Kool-Aid of lyrics not mattering. On She Stank, the chorus, they say, yeah, what? Cause she stank. Yeah, cause she stank. Yeah, cause she stank. I ain't fuck his bitch, cause she stank. Yeah, huh, cause she stank. Yeah, huh, cause she stank. Yeah, I fuck his bitch, cause she stank. Yeah, huh, what the fuck you think? Now, of course, those are not the deepest lyrics we're gonna get on the Album Mode podcast. That goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even the biggest Rage fan can hear that chorus and be like, you mailed it in there. And I
Right.
think that is something that I didn't always feel before. It's like I don't need to hear you go into your KRS-One bag. That's not. I didn't come here for that. Okay. If I want to go to KRS-One, he's on Spotify too. I can find him.
Right.
But I think there's times like this where it's like I don't know if I need you to have more bars, but at least show me the effort and the creativity. On verse 1, it continues. I pop 2, huh? Yeah, check my move. Yeah, I go zoom. Yeah, this ain't new. I'm a Lil Uzi. Yeah, I can't lose. Fuck what they say. I can never go bankrupt. Niggas frauds like insurance. She wanna pull up in that foreign. Yeah, yeah, and she know that I'm so gothic. Prisons all on me. I cannot do no Prince Albert. That is not even any effort, it seems, into that. And
Wait, did that even
I
rhyme?
okay. And so I think this is where, like I said before, the production and the lyrics are both at a point where this is what the old heads have been hearing the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, and I think now is finally the time where it's like, okay, you're right now. Maybe you weren't right in 2015, but in 2024, you're absolutely correct, because this is the kind of lyrical ability where it's almost like we're just happy it rhymed. Like, we're just impressed that you're rapping.
Yeah.
And why I kind of always bring up the 21-year-old white kid as the fan is that's the kind of music that 20-year-old white kid is a fan of. And we used to always have this thing we used to say back in the day, at least, the neighborhood I grew up in, is if I know someone who raps better than this person, I can't respect that. And it's always that kind of idea, almost in sports of, oh, he would have went to the league, but he broke his ankle or this, and it ends like you're almost comparing the player you see on the court to the player who averaged 30 a game in high school and is working at Costco. And for a lot of people, hip hop is the same way, where people who can really, really rap, put words together, put songs together, who don't do this for real. They drive the truck at UPS. And it sounds like Lil Uzi can't out rap that guy. And it's not about that, of course, but it seems as though it is like the level of skill matched with the level of popularity. There's a big gap in between those two right now.
Yeah, I think I've always been Outlier. I think an outlier as a hip hop listener, but also like a black hip hop listener, where I'm like, the music or what determines a good rapper to me, or great rapper, is when all of the pieces of the song come together to make a great song, right? So I said this to Adriel before, but there was a time, I want to say mid 2010s, where I was like, Kanye's best, like he's just the best, because nobody can construct a song like Power like him. Nobody can construct a song like Love Lockdown like him in hip hop, right? And even when music went forwards, that view, I felt vindicated, because then there was people like Uzi where I would not consider Uzi a technical rapper in any sense. But their songs, again, like Money Longer, if you really look at the lyrics on Money Longer, not complex. We're not dropping a double entendre. We're not doing that. But like the emotions that it evokes, intense. Some of the most intense emotions you ever feel in a hip hop song, right? So when it came to this, I already understood. I'm in the rage space. I'm one of the people that likes rage music. I like Ken Carson. You guys know I love Yeat's music. Like I don't know if you're a listener and you don't know that I love Yeat's music, you're not listening. But Playboi Carti, I was big on Playboi Carti early, So I'm in the space, so I understand. Like this is like hip hop's punk, basically. This is punk music. I think that it's gone to a point now where Uzi's construction, like just song construction, is deteriorated so badly that it's like actively hurting the songs. Like for example, Big Time Rush. Um, Uzi in the past was a prime time hit maker. The hooks, songs like EXO Tour Life, again, Money
Mm-hmm.
Longer, songs like even I think it was like Sanguine Paradise. It was
Yep.
also, yeah. So and even the latest hit song that came out, I Just Wanna Rock. So the primetime hit maker, primetime hook maker. And when you listen to a song like Big Time Rush, where the verse, or this is the chorus, right? There's like all these bitches for us, Gustavo in my blunt, bitch I'm Big Time Rush, yeah, bitch I'm Big Time Rush, bitch I'm Big Time Rush, yeah, bitch I'm Big Time Rush, yeah, and that just goes for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, about 15 lines, and is also offbeat. He's chanting a line that is not doesn't feel I don't feel anything when I'm listening to it, and it's also offbeat. And that to me just shows like it is slipping. It is slipping to a degree that is like unrecognizable, basically, at this point. Like it's hard to even say like that, even you listen to that, it doesn't even sound good. Like it doesn't even sound good. Like it doesn't even like the words don't even sound good on the production. Like it's gotten that bad.
It's very sad because again, this is what I think people heard the whole time. And I and I think your point about the pieces coming together and doing something no one else can do,
Mm-hmm.
Uzi had been that for such a long
Yes.
time. And
Yes.
I remember when EXO Tour Life came out, um, one of the few cases where one of their actually better songs is also one of their biggest hits.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't always the case. But I remember telling people they do this. This is not a fluke. This may be the first time you heard this, but this is what they do. They have done this time and time again. And I think why I highlight that song is that was their coming out party. Of course, huge hit song. Totally ran that summer, of course. But that was the time for the people who weren't fans yet of like, okay, I can't act like everyone can make that song. That is a song that is undeniable in terms of its catchiness and a hit. And that's a song I can't act like everyone can make. I think this album is full of songs that a bunch of people could make.
Yeah.
And I think that is what I haven't always felt before. Lift Em Up is my last part for lyrics because there's actually some here that I actually like. There's actually a bar in here that I like, and I'm not gonna lie, maybe I like it for the young me more than the current me. Okay, the
Okay.
21-year-old me, 22-year-old me would be trying to use this bar in real life, any
Mhm.
chance I could. Last verse of Lift Em Up, they say, "I'm not the shooter, got mine for protection. I turn to the shooter if he keep deflection. She was giving me necklace. I'm missing my exit. She was doing her bestest. I know that she restless. She giving me necklace. That's a bar right
Double
there. That is
entendre.
something
Wow.
that could make it into the vernacular
Hmm.
of a young early 20s person of she giving me necklace. So they're still in there. Okay, there are still some clever bars in there. But I think something like she giving me necklace isn't the deepest bar still.
Yeah.
But it's creative, it's funny, it catches your attention. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah.
Don't create a world where I can enjoy the song and not know the words as I rap along. So give me something to hang on to.
Yeah. I would say that one of the things that Uzi did used to give people to hang on was the ad libs. Yeah, like the hit there, Yaz Hayes, the who in the background, stuff like that. Those were things that you could grip. And those are also like slick, becoming slick. Like you can no longer grip onto those because a song like Meteor Man, which I genuinely think is maybe his worst song, I think ever. I like legitimately think ever, or maybe since like
Ooh.
like since the first mixtape, the one where he's like, reaching into the crowd.
Hmm.
Maybe that's not even maybe that's like the second mix. Regardless, since those days, uh the echo on the voice, it feels like they're going for the future slash deep voice Carti, and it's not working. That voice appears multiple times, and it's got this weird warble on it that is not attractive in any way. And then also in that song again, he's rapping off. Like, am I crazy saying he's rapping off beat? Like, am I am I the only one hearing that, or is it something going on with my ears, or what? Like, there.
You're not crazy. It's funny you brought that up because I had that in my notes. Ask Demar what he thinks about Meteor Man, and
Oh my god.
I didn't want to assume how you were going to feel about it, but I kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to be your favorite. So
Yeah,
for you to jump out the window and say maybe their worst song ever is beyond my expectations.
I just think it's so genuinely bad. I think where they're like, where's that one part? I want to make sure I get this. It's like this is a gosh, hold on a second. I know exactly where it is. Is where they're like, this is an or, this is an or, this is an or, this is an or. I'm like, bruh, the aura is gone, and you're only confirming it.
Yeah, no,
I feel bad.
I'm with you. Are you ready to move on to what this means for their career? Because I want to get into some juicy stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so this is a conversation that probably predates me even knowing you.
Hmm.
And a couple of my friends, we always talked about who's next in the hip hop world from an influence standpoint.
Hmm.
We had kind of the big four of influence going forward: Nicki, Drake, Wayne, and T-Pain. And we thought,
Those
yeah,
were not names I thought you were gonna say.
Kanye, we're giving Kanye, he's in his own special spot.
Yeah,
Okay. For everyone who's yelling Kanye at their
yeah.
computer and TV
Kanye,
right now.
Kanye's kind of like, my chess folks are gonna love this. Kanye's kind of like the Bobby Fischer of hip hop now, where it's just like
At this point, yeah.
everybody's like, yeah, he's kind of like one of the best people. We're just not gonna talk about it anymore. Like we're just not gonna talk about it any that much anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. I think as time goes on, it's going to change a whole lot because I don't think we get any like Charles Gambino said it best. We don't get any of this
I
um
agree. Drake does
without
not
without
exist.
w- no none of not Raid none of
Yeah,
this exists without
none of
Kanye.
this exists because people like,
Um
yeah. Continue.
but we talked about who's going to be that next group in terms of influence, their sound, their swag.
Hmm.
And this is right after DS2. So Future is at his peak. We're like, okay, Future is where he is. And who's the next group? And we built together this group of four. And we've gone back to it a few times. Kind of as time goes on, we're like, okay, maybe there's something here. And the four was Young Thug,
Hmm.
Lil Uzi, 21 Savage, and Kodak Black. And
Who
to
are these people you're
see
talking to?
and at that time, to see how that grew,
Hmm.
um it's obviously very interesting, but how would you rank those four in the present in 2024?
Of influence, probably Young Thug at the top,
Hmm.
then Uzi, and then 21. I don't really think not 21 Savage. I'd have to say Kodak then 21 Savage, just because who is like 21 Savage currently? I can't think of a
and
single person like him.
I think that's why this like four is so interesting because I would say that Thug and Uzi had huge influence past the
Yeah.
other two by a long shot. There's a bunch of Thug and Uzis out there, and
Hmm.
and I would say a bunch of people who are kind of a mix of the two.
Yeah.
I think of people like Lucky or V's that it's
Yeah.
like there's a
Coaches.
little bit of yeah, a little bit of swag from those guys, but ultimately a different rapping style. And why I brought that up is because I would say that Young Thug, literally just got free like less than a week ago.
Great
So
dog.
we're gonna see what music he has coming. But people were disappointed in his last project.
Hmm.
And I would say the last few projects. Uzi, if you heard this review, you're how many minutes in? You know what we said about the Uzi. I would argue that 21 Savage and Kodak Black are making the best music out of the four right now. And they're
Yeah,
probably the
probably.
two least influential. And so I think what we've seen, at least in this podcast going forward, is that some of these people who are influential in the beginning at a certain moment, they just have that moment. And then
Yeah.
eventually they get passed by. And it is kind of the rare person who can remain influential and still make good music and remain relevant. And I think that's what I've been thinking about with Uzi is, you know, Uzi's doing 60K for this recent project. That didn't I think that crossed any of our minds.
Yeah.
I think
No.
talking about how popular they were and how big of artists they were, that's less than half of the last project.
Isn't
So
that
I
crazy?
no, it's and I think I had that, I guess, again, foresight, pat myself on the back for even asking the
Mhm.
question, is them being popular the only reason we're doing this? Now they're not even that popular. So
Yeah.
what does that mean for the future of their career when the influences pass them by? They're not as popular anymore. Where does that land Lil Uzi right now?
Yeah, that's when you put it together like that, it paints a grim picture for Lil Uzi Vert. I think that pretty much what you said about the idea that if you're influential, it's kind of hard to do something that is very influential and then stay relevant because people are you make the thing, right? You make like the pinpoint, and then everybody comes to you and then goes off in different directions from the pinpoint, and you're still the point, right? So the direction that you go in is kind of almost by default kind of behind other people because they're already you had to get to the point, right? And then create it. But other people are just like walking in and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna go this way, right? So for
Yeah.
you to create it and then you'll be like, okay, which way do I go? Everybody else is going in other directions. You're already like, okay, I gotta find a new direction on top of already creating the thing that we are now doing, right? So I think that we're it's like a Kid Cudi situation. I really think it is like a Kid Cudi situation. I just think that Uzi was popular for longer, like getting to the like popular to the sense of like there's multiple hits after Uzi's like first impact, right? There's multiple huge albums after Uzi's first impact. I think that going forward, if he or they cannot like redefine what their music sounds like, it's gonna be a precipitous fall because at this point, Uzi's sound is a 1.0. We're at a 3.0 right now in range. No,
Yeah.
seriously, because we
No,
we went from
your Yeat
Uzi.
comparison with Orchestrate, like
Yeah,
I listened to Orchestrate after you said that. That's one of
yeah,
my favorite Yeat songs. And I'm like, this is like two different worlds.
yeah,
And I think what's so great about your comparison is that this is not that far apart in years from the origin.
yeah,
And that's
exactly.
what makes it so stark, is like this is not like 10 years down the line and this comes out. This is like
5 years maybe.
4 or 5 years
Yeah.
from the origin. So yeah, you're right. This is a big fall for him.
So he's 1.0, and I would say Playboi Carti was like 2.0. And now we're in the Kent Carson, Destroy Lonely,
Yeah.
Yeet 3.0. And even though Uzi was technically the largest artist, that guy Yeet and Cardi already coming up behind you, if not ahead of you, just raw selling now, right? So I think Lifestyle is sold more than 60K.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they've already eclipsed Lil Uzi Vert in popularity of just like the music currently. So I think this is bad. Like we're on DEFCON 1 right now.
No, this is bad for their career. I think this is something that it's kind of part of the conversation in a larger sense that people don't, I guess, always articulate well, is if you're a production based artist where your sound, including your voice, is part of what makes you you, that's the easiest to get replicated. Someone can have a producer mimic that. Someone can mimic your voice. If that's what makes you you, that's easily mimicable. And I think that is the biggest part of what makes Uzi Uzi. And so now you see all of these Uzi copycats. You're naming the best ones. Let's talk about the worst ones. And that is, I think, what kind of changes the market in a sense where, Jay-Z is obviously a different level, but a Jay-Z copycat is not going to sound like Jay-Z. Right. It's still going to be a very distinct difference in the quality and even the voice and delivery from someone who's trying to copy that. So I think this is really kind of a weird place because Uzi is really the only one from this group who's had such a fall. Carti is somehow on the way up, which I don't understand.
Yeah, he's still going up. Have you looked at his monthly list? He's at 56 million.
No, I know, insane. Oh, I saw.
He hasn't released an album in 4 years.
No, Playboi Carti has more monthly listeners than Michael Jackson. That's a real stat.
That's a real fact. That's a real number.
So it's like he's on the way up. Yeat is still rising on the way up, and I think that is something we haven't seen before. Is someone from this subgenre at the height that Uzi was at, higher than all of these guys. Like you said it great. Biggest song, biggest albums, biggest tours, and now he's fallen below a lot of these guys. So I think we're seeing something happen for the first time in front of our eyes of how that's going to go. And I think that is something that I guess in the subgenres of hip hop, we haven't really seen how that plays out yet. Because I think when it comes to the mainstream level, it goes a whole different way.
Yeah.
If Kanye's music might suffer, he'll still go number one.
Yeah.
Eminem's music might suffer, he'll still go number one. So I think seeing it from the subgenre sense is maybe it's we're learning kind of as a culture that it's different for the subgenres, because I do think at a point people considered Uzi the mainstream. They were so popular that they were considered the mainstream. And I think, of course, me and you didn't think that way. But I think
I thought Uzi was the guy or the person.
You thought they were the mainstream, because I think that's the difference. Is there is a time when almost like Nirvana in the 90s when someone from the subculture, the subgenre, becomes super popular. Yeah. And that's different from the mainstream. And it's true, to me, it's true. And I think like sometimes the popularity of someone makes that hard to, perceive or understand in the moment. But I think like there's a lot of artists with the biggest artists, like usually the biggest artists are artists of that ilk. It's rare that there's a Drake who is in the center for 10 years and 12 years and it's still as popular. It's usually people like Adele, who no one else who's like Adele is at the top of the charts. It's when Adele shows up, she does her sound, breaks every record imaginable, and then for the rest of the time, there's none of that on the charts basically until she comes back.
That's very true.
And I think Uzi was the same way, where when they come out and they pop out, you're not hearing nothing else like this in the top of the charts until they come back.
Yeah.
And I think those days are gone, and we're kind of seeing it firsthand. So album's definitely rough for their career. Yeah. And I think just numbers wise, of course, we see, literally that hurts. But I do think perception wise, I've heard a lot of Lil Uzi fans say that this is the fall off.
The fall off. How do you feel about the cover? The multi person, it's like a bunch of people in a crowd with the purple eyes. How do you feel about the cover?
I like the cover a lot.
Me too.
This is one of their best covers. I know we just spent a little bit of time shitting on the album and not treating it great, but
the cover looks great.
The cover is absolutely great. It's almost a shame that this is a cover that came with this album. But I like this cover a lot, and I think this is almost even more of a shame because when you hear Uzi tell the story of Eternal Atake and Eternal Atake 2 and the cover and what this all means, there's something going on here. There's a story to be told in this project, and it is kind of a shame that this cover, I don't know if this cover matches the music at all. I can't really speak to that. And then it's like the story that they've told about what this album is and the cover, and then you get songs like She Stank. And I said, how does the story you just told go with She Stank? So the cover on its own, great cover, but I don't know how it fits with the music.
Yeah, I think the cover is awesome. I think The purple eyes are cool. Uzi has had a fascination with purple for a while.
Mm-hmm.
This alien out of space type of idea was also something they've been fascinating for a while. So I thought the cover looks sick. Uh, the music, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a no skips?
Many skips.
Many thanks, many skips, please.
Yeah, many skips.
Many
Same for
skips.
you, I'm assuming.
Man. I think it's so weird because it's so repetitive as well that it's actually like I don't know, like a many skippable. Like you can just skip like 3, 4 in a row, and you're like, okay, new sound or something. Um, I guess it's not a vinyl cop. I feel like if we're just like, no, yeah, okay, the moment everybody has been waiting for, Adriel,
Mm-hmm.
what is your score for Lil Uzi Vert's Eternal Atake 2?
I want to be real with everyone on here. I feel like almost any score that I'm gonna give somehow feels too high. And so this has been a hard album to score for me because even when I've already had it low to begin with, I'm like, but is that still too high? Because I may save 2 songs from this project.
Okay, damn.
And so my number may go from 81 like songs to 83 like
Mm-hmm,
songs.
mm-hmm.
But this to me is a 3.5.
Hey.
This album is not good,
Ooh.
and I think that like this album is just straight not good. I think
Yeah.
this is almost such a bad album that you have to give the caveat of there are good songs, and I think
That's so true.
that is kind of when you know an album is bad. When an album's bad and you got to say, but there's some stuff on here.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that is when you know an album is not in the right place. The production is borderline embarrassing. I think lyrically on this project, some of the worst I've heard from Lil Uzi, if I'm
The
being
melodies are
honest.
okay.
No, there are some points on here with melodies are okay. And here's the thing I think is these songs fit the energy. That it remains.
I
These
don't know what that
songs
means.
fit
What
the
does that mean?
energy the energy of rave. They're the right
Okay.
BPM, there's the
Yeah,
right
yeah.
sounds, there's the right 808s. You know, it's not like he put out his 808s and Heartbreak. This is not
Right.
that where it's just totally left. You're like, I don't recognize this.
Right.
This is still the same genre as the music before.
Mm-hmm.
So that shows you how bad this project is. That I'm saying is one of the good parts. It's still the same genre, but this is a 3.5 for me.
Okay.
We don't usually do a worst of the year list, but if we
This would
were,
make it.
this is definitely up there for me in terms of the candidates. What's your score for this thing?
So my score for Lil Uzi Vert's Eternal Take 2 is a 3 out of 10. This is bad. And to the point of I don't know where he goes next. Like he really needs to figure out that or they need to figure out that they are so far behind when it comes to rage music where everybody else their music hits like a hammer, a jackhammer. Their music right now is hitting like a feather.
Your uncle's toolbox, man, is missing some tools.
The toolbox is bereft of tools. I think that we're at a point now where in rage music again the tool you gotta use everything like anything that Young Thug, Future, um your own style has Uzi, you got to be able to figure out how to mash those things. Carti, obviously, you got to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to mash those things together in unique ways. And Uzi was so singular in what they were doing that when it comes to now, they still think that they're singular in what they're doing when they are now one of a plethora of people, right? So I think that the production is not good enough. It's just fundamentally not good enough. It's not strong, like not interesting enough. It doesn't hit you hard enough. The 808s feel so like barely there. Like what's going on? You know what I mean? Rapping is whatever. I'm not gonna even knock or anything for the rapping, but like
Mm-hmm.
melodies are fine. Hooks are not good. Why is he rapping? Why are they rapping off beat? Why is that happening? Like the music is not complex and rapping is not complex. Like I don't understand that. So there is a fundamental like rejiggering that needs to happen with their music, or we're going to be seeing somebody just completely stuck in the past. Because this sounds like it came out in 2017.
And I don't know if this would even bang in 2017. I think there's
Yeah.
even some on here that's like this is just maybe a mid album in
Yes.
2017.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think last but not least, before we wrap this up, is I'm waiting for a hit from Lil Uzi Vert. I think that is what they need next. I think on our last review we mentioned of them approaching legacy status
They're
of
there.
and
This
I
album
think
confirmed that.
and I think that's where they are now. But I would say is, you know, what kind of legacy act are they going to be? Are they going to be a legacy act that does Budweiser? For those of you who are not from Toronto, that's about 12,000 or so seats.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amphitheater size.
Mm-hmm.
Or are they going to be a history legacy artist?
No,
And they
no, no.
always do 4,000 or 5,000. Now I think we both assume it will be amphitheater,
Yeah.
but I think as of now, when is the last real Lil Uzi hit? When I go to the Spotify page, all those most streamed songs are from prior to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent one is Just Wanna Rock.
Yeah.
And so I think an artist in their position, their worth is kind of placed on how many hits do they have. And I think, we're gonna have to see how this career changes. We've never seen this before, and we're kind of learning and understanding it in real time. So I'm interested to see. I also want to see the Lil Uzi fans come out in droves in the comments. Please let us know. I'm sure y'all rate this higher than both of us combined. So let us know in the comments. What do you think about this project? Are we wrong? Is this their best work ever? Are we totally tripping? The streets have been saying they fell off. Tell us if we're wrong. Tell us if we're right. Please, if we're right, all caps. Okay. Tell us if we're right. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you leave us a rating and a review. 5 stars, not a single star less. Please find us on the interwebs at Album Mode on Instagram. Sorry, at Album Mode Pod on Instagram, at Album Mode Pod on Twitter, at Album Mode Pod on TikTok, and of course on YouTube. Like this video. Make sure you're subscribed and leave us a comment. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.